All right, guys, what's up, idiots? So today, a friend of mine sent me this picture and has said that this is supposedly the new agent. He said I was clear to talk about it. So let's just get into it. And let's talk about these abilities, what it implies. Supposedly, it's an initiator. So let's just get started and we'll read through all of these and we'll try and understand what the implications will be for all of these abilities that you see on screen. So Prowler. Equip and fire to send a creature out, which will travel in a straight line looking for enemies and or trails. Hold fire and move mouse to steer the creature in the direction you are facing. When the creature finds a trail or an enemy, it will move towards them. Upon reaching the enemy, it will start a 0.5 cook time and then near sight the closest enemy for 3 seconds. Only one creature can latch onto the trail ever. So what I'm thinking it applies here is it's not going to be like Skydog where you control it. I believe this is something you steer kind of like the Sky Bird, and it can latch on to trails. And what I believe it's saying by trails is probably just where an enemy has traveled. That one's kind of hard to really get a grasp of, but that's kind of what I'm assuming it would be. Just kind of like a latch on Skydog that you kind of steer. Not a great ability, but like a boombot kind of that just doesn't do damage, but just near sights them. Is probably the best that I can sort of compare it to. So seize, equip an orb, and press fire to throw the orb. The orb is going to travel in a max time of 1.5 seconds until dropping to the ground. Upon hitting the ground, it will stick in place and cook for 0.5 seconds. And after 0.5 seconds, it will expand out to 7 meters, and all enemies caught within will be tethered to the center. Tethered enemies will suffer a 75 decay damage, are deafened, and cannot escape the zone by normal means for 5 seconds. Can be reactivated in flight to drop earlier. So it looks like this is something that you can kind of throw when it travels above, like up in the sky, and it drops down after a certain amount of time. And upon that, it'll just kind of act like an Astra suck, and it will pull the enemies in and add decay to them, which is kind of busted, honestly. I think a suck in itself is good enough. So I don't like, especially a suck that you can just kind of put down on command with like a little bit less warning than an actual suck. I feel like that might be pretty stupid, honestly. But I guess we'll see how that one plays out. Haunt is fire to throw the orb. The orbs will travel in the air a max time of 1.5 until dropping to the ground. Once it hits the ground, it raises back up and turns into an eye that can be destroyed. If the eye sees opponents, it will reveal them and apply a trail debuff that lasts 12 seconds. Can be reactivated in flight to drop the projectile earlier. So kind of like the same thing as the suck, except instead of sucking them, it will just give them a trail debuff, and then it will give them a it'll give them a trail debuff, and then it will reveal them like a Sova drone. So instead of sucking, it just reveals them and gives them the trail debuff. Now going back to Prowler, what I think is the implication here is just simply that the Prowler is kind of going to just follow a trail that you get from the Haunt. So it appears that, at least from what I'm seeing, the Haunt is kind of marking them with the trail, and then the Prowler goes after the trail, which makes sense because the Haunt is the signature ability. So that does make a lot of sense that the purchased item would act off of the signature ability. So it looks like you can steer them towards the trails. It doesn't see anything about being able to destroy it, but I'm assuming you will be able to destroy it as well. And for Nightfall, equip this ability, fire to send out a wave of dark mist. If the mist comes in contact with an enemy, they will be trailed, deaf, and decayed for 12 seconds. So I'm assuming this just gives a trail. You can act on that with the Prowler. And then the deaf and decayed. So trailed is a new debuff. We don't really know what that's going to do. Whether that kind of reveals them, we don't really know. But the deaf and decayed is going to be kind of weird as well. I believe deaf is also new. I'm assuming it's kind of like the Omen blind where it deafens and blinds. So maybe it acts similar to that. I don't know if the actual Omen blind applies the actual deaf debuff, but I guess we'll see. And decaying for 12 seconds, that's kind of strong. We don't know like how big this ability is, but if it adds a decay for 12 seconds, that's going to be really, really powerful for taking sites. And yeah, okay, so I can see how this is definitely going to be an initiator, and I feel like it could be really strong, but there's no real blinds aside from the Haunt and the Prowler. So I don't know. I feel like this could potentially be similar to Sova in a sense. and it's in the sense that it reveals and then you can prowl. So kind of a combination between Omen, Sky, and Sova is what I'm seeing with this character. So I definitely think this character could be strong, but without a dedicated flash, I don't really know. I think just reading through these abilities, this character looks overtuned. Like, generally, this character looks overtuned. I think the ultimate is going to be tuned back. I feel like that's really strong. Given if it's like a small ultimate that doesn't cover all of sight, then it won't be nearly as good. But if you look at places that you really want to take control of, like let's say Garage on Haven or Hookah, and you just ult in there and it gets all of Hookah, all of Garage, or all of like maybe a smaller site like B site or C site on Haven, like this could be a very strong ability. And I think just from this, I think it might need to be tuned down, because especially a 12-second decay, that is a long time to be decayed in a round. Like that is a long decay. So I don't really know what they're gonna do with this. I don't know how they plan on implementing this character. If this is even real in the first place, we don't know. But this is just what I got, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. If you learned anything, which you probably, if you guys thought this was cool, go ahead and leave a like. And yeah, I'll talk to you later. So just going over all these abilities, do I think this character is going to be strong? Yes, I do. I think, like I said a little bit earlier, I think this character is going to be generally overtuned. They usually have this mistake where they release an agent and it's just way too strong, right? If anyone remembers the release of Killjoy, she was way too strong. I talked about that. I was like, way too strong. Definitely needs a nerf. They got nerfed. Same thing with Reyna. I complained about Reyna being way too strong upon release, and she got nerfed really hard because she was way too strong. When Yoru dropped, I made a video basically saying Yoru was going to be horrible and not good, especially at the higher ranks. Everyone flamed me in the comments, and then Yoru, upon release, kind of bad, right? He was good for like a day or two, and then everyone actually learned how to play against him, which is kind of what I figured would happen, and he turned into a very low tier agent. Now, I think this character on release is going to be very strong for the most part. I think the ultimate needs to be tuned down. I think the Prowler is also just a bit strong, given I don't know if you can target multiple people with the Hunt, and if it's on a cooldown or not, because if it's on a cooldown, then that could be really strong. That way you could get both of your Prowlers out and around, and you could debuff 2 people. And not only that, it has the near sight, and it gives the intel, so it's like 2 potential Sky Dogs, like 2 of the squids from Sky's ultimate going out, as long as you hit the Haunt on them. So yeah, you need a little bit of intel, a little bit of game sense to use the Haunt, but if you combo that with the Prowler multiple times in a round, that is a lot of intel you can get. Not only that, the Seize also adds decay damage. So if you haunt somebody and you know that they're there, you can seize them and they're decayed, and you can pre-fire him and basically insta-kill him because he's decayed. So I think this character is just massively overtuned from at least what I'm seeing here. I could be 100% off the mark on this one, right? Because I haven't seen any gameplay. I don't know how the actual abilities interact with people, and how they actually, how they actually work. So this could be all up in the air. This is just speculation. Given the state, or given the fact that this is potentially real, this is kind of my prediction on it. And honestly, I just think it's going to be a very strong agent, a little bit overtuned. I definitely think they're going to have to make changes just based on what I can see from the ability screen, right? We don't know how it's going to actually perform in game. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, let me know your thoughts and how you think this agent, if real, would actually play into the current meta.